AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after she called my job fake and told me to get a real life. So, I, 27F, work remotely as a UX designer for a small but successful startup. I've been in the company for 3 years, I make good money, and I genuinely love what I do. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment and don't have kids. My older sister, Emily, 33F, is married with 3 children, 8, 5, and 3. She and her husband both work full-time, and they often rely on family for childcare. Now, I've helped out before, maybe once every couple of months, when something came up suddenly. But lately, Emily's been acting like my flexible work schedule means I'm available 24/7. She started asking me to watch her kids on weekdays because, and I quote, "You're home anyway." At first, I tried to be accommodating. I told her I could help occasionally, but I couldn't do it regularly because I'm literally working. I explained that just because I work from home doesn't mean I can stop in the middle of the day to take care of 3 small kids. She laughed it off and said, "You're on your computer all day. How hard can it be?" It got worse last month. Emily had an important client meeting and asked me to watch the kids from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. I told her I had 2 design reviews that day and couldn't possibly do it. She got mad and said I was being selfish. Then she told me that when she was my age, she would drop everything to help family and that I'm too attached to my laptop. A few days later, she called again, asking if I could just come over and work from her house while the kids were there, so I could keep an eye on them. I told her that's not how my job works. I need quiet and focus. She sighed and said, "Honestly, I don't even get how you call what you do a job. You just sit at home in pajamas pushing buttons." That comment really stung. I put a lot of effort into my career. I went to school for this. I've worked my way up, and I've had to learn a ton of skills. I told her she was being disrespectful. She doubled down and said she's just telling the truth and that my job isn't stressful compared to real work like raising kids or managing a classroom. She used to be a teacher. Fast forward to last week. Emily called me in a panic because her regular babysitter canceled last minute. She asked if I could take the kids that Saturday from morning to evening. I said no because I had plans with my boyfriend. We were going to spend the day out of town, something we'd been planning for weeks. Emily blew up at me, saying I was choosing some guy over family. I reminded her that I've helped her a lot before and that she shouldn't expect me to always be available. She told me she'd never ask again, but I didn't believe her. Then, a few days ago, she sent a group text to our family. Our parents and younger brother were in it, complaining that I refuse to lift a finger for anyone and that I'm too self-centered with my made-up tech job. My mom called me later, trying to smooth things over, but even she said I could be more understanding since Emily's so overwhelmed. I told my mom that I love my niece and nephews, but I'm not their backup babysitter. I said I'm done rearranging my life and my work to make up for Emily's poor planning. Mom sighed and said, "You know how she is, and that it's not worth the drama." That might have been the end of it, but apparently Emily told some of her friends that I don't believe in helping family and think I'm too good for everyone because I work online. One of those friends DM'd me on Instagram. We used to be friendly, and said, "You should cut your sister some slack. Parenting is hard." At this point, I was done. I texted Emily directly and said, "Until you can respect what I do for a living and stop treating me like your unpaid nanny, don't ask me for help." She responded with a long message calling me cold, ungrateful, and delusional for thinking my job is more important than family. Now my parents are urging me to apologize just to keep the peace. My mom says I could at least help sometimes, and that Emily just vents when she's stressed. My dad, on the other hand, quietly told me he thinks I'm right to set boundaries. But I can tell my family thinks I'm being difficult. It's been awkward in our group chat ever since. Emily keeps making little digs like some of us don't get to sit around in pajamas all day, and my mom just ignores it. To be honest, I'm starting to feel guilty. I know Emily has a lot on her plate. She's juggling work, 3 kids, and a marriage that seems strained. But at the same time, I feel like she's using that as an excuse to dump her responsibilities on me. It's not like I've refused every single time. I've helped plenty. I've driven the kids to school when her car broke down. I've watched them when she was sick, and I've even taken them for weekends before. But I'm not willing to be her go-to childcare solution just because I don't clock in an office. Last night, my boyfriend told me he's proud of me for standing my ground. He said Emily's behavior is manipulative and that she's projecting her own frustration onto me. I agree, but I also don't want to be the mean sister. Now, my mom's hosting a family dinner next weekend, and Emily will be there. Mom already warned me to not bring up work stuff because Emily's still upset. I honestly don't even want to go because I know she'll make some passive-aggressive comment. But if I skip it, my family will say I'm being dramatic. So here I am, stuck between feeling justified and feeling like the bad guy. AITA for refusing to babysit anymore after my sister insulted my job and kept minimizing what I do. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my brother and his fiancée move into my house, even though they say I owe them because of family loyalty. I'm a 32-year-old woman, and about 3 years ago, I inherited my grandparents' house after they passed. It's a modest 3-bedroom place, nothing fancy, but it's in a quiet area and fully paid off. I put a lot of time and money into renovating it. New floors, repainting, fixing plumbing, and redoing the old kitchen. It's my home, and I love it. My brother, Jake, 29, has always been the golden child in our family. Growing up, he was the one who got all the praise, sports, charm, good looks, whatever. I was the responsible one, which basically meant I was expected to handle things quietly while Jake got away with anything because he's just young. Our parents have a habit of seeing Jake as someone who just needs a little help to get back on track, even though he's been getting back on track for about 10 years now. Jake met his fiancée, Melissa, 27, about a year ago. She's very outgoing and dramatic, the kind of person who always has a story about how someone wronged her. When they first got engaged 6 months ago, I congratulated them and offered to help with small things, like connecting them to a good photographer or helping with budgeting. But then they started making assumptions about things I never agreed to. The first red flag was when Melissa said during a family dinner, "It's so nice that we'll have the wedding in your backyard." It's had such a rustic vibe. Everyone looked at me like it was already settled. I laughed and said, "Wait, what? I didn't agree to host your wedding here." She looked shocked and said, "Oh, Jake said you wouldn't mind." Jake chimed in with, "Well, you've got the space, and it's family. It just makes sense." I told them no, that my yard wasn't equipped for a wedding, and that I didn't want a big event tearing up the grass I just paid to reseed. They both got weirdly quiet and made me feel like I was being selfish. After that, things were awkward, but I figured it would blow over. Fast forward to last month. Jake called saying he and Melissa were in a temporary financial bind. Apparently, Melissa had quit her job to focus on wedding planning, and Jake's hours at work had been cut. They said they needed a place to stay for a few months while they saved up for a new apartment. I hesitated. I know how a few months turns into a year with my brother. So I told him no, but I offered to loan them some money for a security deposit instead. He immediately got defensive and said, "You have 3 bedrooms and you live alone. Why are you being so stingy?" Melissa then got on the phone and said, "It's literally what family does. Help each other. You're being cold and ungrateful, considering how your grandparents would have wanted us to stick together." That comment stung because my grandparents had left me the house specifically. They knew Jake was irresponsible with money. After I refused again, my parents called. My mom said, "Honey, just let them stay for a bit. It's not like they'll destroy anything." I reminded her about the last time Jake borrowed my car and brought it back with a dent and no gas. She said I was holding grudges and needed to show grace. A week later, I came home from work and found Jake's car in my driveway. When I walked in, they were already inside with boxes. Melissa smiled and said, "We figured you'd come around once you saw how serious we were." I was stunned. They had gotten my spare key from my mom, who didn't think it would be a big deal. I lost it. I told them to leave immediately or I'd call the police. Jake looked at me like I'd slapped him and said, "You'd really call the cops on your own brother?" Melissa started crying, saying I was cruel and heartless and that she didn't feel safe being thrown out like this. I stood my ground. I told them they had 1 hour to get out, and I took the spare key back. Jake left muttering that I was ruining the family. My mom called again that night, furious. She said I had humiliated my brother and that I was being dramatic over something that could have been solved with love. I told her that letting people move into my house without permission wasn't love, it was disrespect. She said, "You always think you're better than him because you have that house. You should be sharing it." Since then, I've been basically cut off. Jake blocked me on social media, and Melissa posted a long rant about selfish people who only care about property over family. I've had mutual relatives texting me, saying I should be the bigger person and let them stay until after the wedding. To make things worse, my mom actually gave Jake another copy of the key in case of emergencies. I had to change the locks. When I told her that, she said I was spiteful and accused me of alienating family over bricks and wood. It's been emotionally draining. My friends say I did the right thing, but a part of me still feels guilty, like maybe I really am being too harsh. Jake is my brother, and I don't want to be that person who refuses to help family. But every time I think about what happened, them letting themselves in without permission, assuming they were entitled to my home, I get angry all over again. Now they're apparently staying with a cousin, but the narrative has completely flipped. Melissa's been telling people that I kicked them out with nowhere to go, leaving them homeless. A few extended relatives have started sending me messages like, "How can you sleep at night knowing your own brother is struggling?" I've tried to stay quiet, but my patience is wearing thin. Part of me wants to send a group message explaining exactly what happened, but I also know that'll probably just cause more drama. Still, I can't shake the feeling that everyone sees me as some villain guarding her precious house while her poor brother suffers. So now I'm sitting here in the house I worked so hard to make my home, wondering if maybe I really am being too cold. Maybe I should have just let them stay for a while, even though I know it would have turned into a disaster. But then I remember how they walked in like they owned the place and how my mom defended it. And I wonder if standing my ground makes me the bad guy in everyone else's story. AITA for refusing to let my brother and his fiancée move into my house and for kicking them out when they came in without permission. AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she completely wrecked my wedding and said I deserved it. I, 32F, got married 3 months ago to my husband, Evan, 35M. The wedding was supposed to be small, elegant, and drama-free. Unfortunately, my younger sister, Tessa, 27F, managed to turn it into one of the most stressful days of my life. And now, after months of no contact, she wants to move back in with me because she has nowhere else to go. For background, Tessa and I were close growing up, but things changed in our early 20s. She started hanging out with people who were into partying, got into financial trouble multiple times, and frequently moved in and out of apartments because she couldn't keep a steady job. Despite that, I always try to help. She lived with me for about a year during the pandemic when she lost her job, rent-free. I helped her find work, loaned her money, which she never repaid, and even helped fix her car. When Evan and I got engaged, Tessa initially seemed happy for me. But over time, she became bitter. She made little comments like, "It must be nice to have a guy who actually wants to settle down," or "You've always been the golden child." I brushed it off at first, but it got harder to ignore. She'd make snide jokes about Evan's job. He's an engineer. And once said she couldn't imagine being with someone so boring. Still, I wanted her involved. I made her a bridesmaid, partly because I hoped it would make her feel included. My parents begged me to keep the peace. They said Tessa was jealous and that I should set an example. So I did. Fast forward to the wedding day. Everything seemed okay that morning. Tessa was late to hair and makeup, but that was expected. She showed up acting completely fine, even gave me a hug, and told me she was proud of me. I thought maybe we were finally in a good place. During the ceremony, she was well-behaved. But the reception, that's when it all fell apart. Apparently, Tessa decided to pre-game before the reception. By the time we were taking photos, she was visibly tipsy. During her toast, which I had begged her to keep short, she went completely off script. She started talking about how crazy it is that I'm married now, considering how picky I used to be and joked about my phase of dating losers. People laughed awkwardly, but she didn't stop. She brought up an ex of mine, someone who cheated on me, and said something like, maybe Evan just caught you at the right time before you scared him off too. It was humiliating. My dad had to gently take the mic from her and escort her off the stage. I was mortified. Evan tried to comfort me, but I could see our guests whispering. Later, I found out Tessa had gone around telling people that Evan isn't really into marriage and that I force him into it because I was tired of waiting. But that wasn't even the worst part. At the end of the night, she got into a screaming match with one of Evan's friends because he asked her to stop drinking from bottles behind the bar. She called him pretentious and threw a glass at the wall. Security had to escort her out of the venue. I cried the entire drive to our hotel. The next day, Tessa texted me saying, sorry if I embarrassed you, but you kind of deserved it. When I asked what she meant, she said I'd never supported her and that I rubbed my happiness in her face. She said watching me get married while she was single made her realize how uneven our lives were and that it wasn't fair. That was the last time we spoke. A few weeks ago, I got a call from my mom saying Tessa lost her apartment again and had nowhere to go. My mom said I should let her stay for a while because family helps family. I refused. I told my mom that Tessa burned that bridge and that I wasn't willing to have her under my roof again, especially after everything she said and did. Tessa later called me herself. She sounded panicked, said she'd been sleeping in her car, that she was sorry for making a scene, and that she'd learned her lesson. But even then, she couldn't resist blaming me. She said, you know, if you'd just been more understanding, none of that would have happened. I told her that I loved her, but I couldn't trust her. I said I hoped she'd get help and figure things out, but she wasn't welcome in my home. She hung up crying. Now my parents are furious. They've been calling me selfish and heartless, saying that one bad night shouldn't define family. My dad said I'm punishing her for being jealous. My mom said, you're married now, you have stability, she doesn't. Evan supports me completely, but even he admits it's sad that my family has taken Tessa's side. My mom even implied that if I don't help, Tessa might end up in real danger. I asked why they couldn't take her in, and my mom said my dad can't handle her drama anymore. I feel horrible about it. I know Tessa's struggling, but I can't forget how she treated me. She didn't just ruin my wedding. She made it about her, humiliated me publicly, and then blamed me for her behavior. I'm terrified that if she moves in, she'll go right back to manipulating, lying, and taking advantage of me. Last night my mom sent me a long message saying, you'll regret this when she's gone, and that a good sister wouldn't turn her back. I haven't responded. Evan says we've already done more than enough, and that my family needs to stop guilt-tripping me. But part of me keeps replaying that call, hearing Tessa cry, and wondering if I really am being cruel. So now I'm stuck. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister move back in after everything she did? AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding dress, even though she can't afford one? So this whole thing blew up in a way I didn't expect, and now half my family isn't speaking to me. I'm starting to wonder if I really did something terrible, or if everyone's just lost their minds. I, 29F, got married 2 years ago to my husband, Ethan, 31M. It wasn't a crazy, lavish wedding, but it was beautiful and very personal to us. One thing that made it special was my dress. My grandmother passed away when I was 19 and left me her wedding dress, which she'd made herself in the 1950s. It was vintage lace, hand-stitched, and absolutely stunning, but very delicate. My mom helped me restore it, and we added a few modern touches while keeping the original charm. It wasn't just a dress to me. It was my grandma's love and craftsmanship, a piece of family history. She and I were incredibly close, and I cried like a baby when I put it on for the first time. After my wedding, I had it professionally cleaned and stored, planning to keep it for my own future daughter, or maybe even display it someday. Enter my younger sister, Sophie, 25F. She's getting married in December to her fiancé, Dan, 26M. They've been together for 3 years, and to be blunt, they're not in the best financial situation. Sophie quit her job last year to pursue content creation, which hasn't gone well, and Dan works part-time. My parents have been helping them out a lot, and they're also covering most of the wedding. About a month ago, Sophie called me out of the blue and asked if she could borrow my wedding dress. She said she couldn't afford one and didn't want to settle for something cheap and basic. I hesitated immediately, but I didn't want to sound heartless. I told her the dress was extremely fragile and that it had huge sentimental value to me. I offered to help her find something similar within her budget, or even help pay for a new dress up to a certain amount. She got really quiet, then asked, "So, you're saying no?" I said yes, because I just didn't feel comfortable letting her wear it. She hung up without another word. The next day, my mom called. Apparently, Sophie had gone crying to her, saying I was being selfish and hoarding the dress for no reason. Mom said I should think about how much this would mean to my sister and how it's just a dress. She said Grandma would have wanted both of us to share it. That part really hit me, because I adore my grandma and I know she loved fairness, but she was also very sentimental about her belongings. I stood firm, though. I told my mom it wasn't just a dress, it was my dress now, and that lending it out could ruin it. I reminded her how fragile the fabric was, and that even minor alterations could damage it permanently. She sighed and said she understood, but she also said, "You know this is going to cause a lot of tension." Tension was an understatement. Sophie started posting vague stuff on social media. Things like some people only care about things, not people, and imagine choosing fabric over family. Her friends commented supportive things like, "You deserve better," and one of them even tagged me. Then it got worse. My aunt, Mom's sister, called me to say she'd heard about the dress drama and that I should just let Sophie wear it for one day. She said I was lucky to have already had my wedding, so it was time to pass the torch. I asked her if she'd lend out her wedding ring to someone who asked, and she said that was different. When Sophie came over to talk in person, I hoped we could finally have a calm discussion. Instead, she arrived with a garment bag and said, "I'll take good care of it, I promise." Like she'd already decided. I told her she wasn't taking it anywhere. She burst into tears and accused me of punishing her for not having money. I told her it wasn't about money. It was about boundaries. She said, "You just don't want me to look as beautiful as you did." That one hurt. I told her I loved her and wanted her day to be amazing, but that I wasn't budging on the dress. She left in tears again, and now the whole family is split. My dad is on my side. He says it's my property. End of story. Ethan thinks Sophie's behavior is entitled, but that I should stop engaging with her until she calms down. My mom and aunt think I'm being cold and materialistic. My grandmother's sister even called me, someone I haven't spoken to in years, and told me I should honor my grandma's memory by keeping her traditions alive, whatever that means. Now Sophie has apparently found a cheaper dress online, but she's still giving me the cold shoulder. She's also told a bunch of extended family that I'm jealous of her wedding because it's going to be bigger, which is ridiculous because I helped her plan half of it before this all started. The kicker? My cousin texted me last week to say Sophie had planned a vintage-inspired photo shoot before the wedding and had asked her if she knew where the dress was stored. I almost lost it. I called Sophie and told her if she even tried to take it without permission, I'd call the police. She hung up again. Now I feel awful. It's gotten so ugly. I don't want to destroy my relationship with my sister, but I also can't bring myself to let her use something that means so much to me. Ethan keeps telling me to stay firm, that giving in now would only teach her she can guilt-trip me into anything. My mom says I should just let it go for the sake of peace and that the dress isn't worth losing family over. But to me, it's not about the dress itself. It's about respect. I offered help, alternatives, money, everything. She wanted the exact thing I told her I wasn't comfortable sharing. Last night, I had a dream about my grandma. Actually, she was sitting at her sewing machine, humming softly, and when she turned to me, she said some things are meant to be kept safe. I woke up crying, and honestly, it felt like an answer. Still, I keep second-guessing myself. Maybe I'm being selfish. Maybe I should have just said yes and hoped for the best. But every time I imagine her altering it or spilling something on it, or even just wearing it in a totally different setting, it makes my stomach twist. So now I'm sitting here 2 months before her wedding, wondering if I'm the villain in all this. AITA for refusing to lend my sister my wedding dress, even though she can't afford one. AITA for refusing to give up my dream wedding venue, even though my sister had a miscarriage and want me to change it. I, 28F, am getting married next spring to my fiancé, Daniel, 30M. We've been together for 6 years, engaged for 1, and I've been planning my wedding since the day we got engaged. I'm very close to my family, especially my older sister, Jenna, 32F. She's always been my best friend, the kind of sister everyone says they wish they had. We've gone through everything together: heartbreaks, family drama, job changes. She was my maid of honor before I even had a ring. Last year, Jenna got pregnant after struggling with infertility for years. It was a huge deal for the whole family. She and her husband, Paul, tried IVF 3 times before it finally worked. Everyone was thrilled, especially me, because I knew how badly she wanted to be a mom. Unfortunately, at the start of this year, she suffered a miscarriage at 21 weeks. It completely broke her. She had to deliver the baby stillborn, and it devastated everyone. I stayed with her in the hospital, helped plan the small memorial, and supported her as best I could. It was one of the hardest things I've ever seen someone go through. Fast forward a few months, I finally secured the venue I've wanted since I was 18. It's a small, beautiful garden estate just outside our city. It's known for its flowering archways, outdoor ceremony spaces, and a small lake that reflects the sunset. It's expensive, but Daniel and I agreed to cut costs elsewhere because it was the one part of the wedding I wouldn't compromise on. I've dreamed of walking down that rose-covered path for years. When I told my family about the venue, everyone was happy, except Jenna. She went very quiet and then later called me privately. She said she didn't want to bring it up in front of everyone, but needed to talk. She explained that the venue I chose is the same place she and Paul had booked for their baby's first birthday party before they lost him. Apparently, she had gone there last year, toured the grounds, and fell in love with it. They had planned to celebrate their son's milestone there, even putting down a small deposit. After the miscarriage, she couldn't bring herself to go near it again, but she said the place now reminds her of everything she lost. She told me that if I go through with the wedding there, she won't be able to attend. She said it would be too painful for her to stand there, watching a big family celebration at the exact location she once imagined for her child. I was honestly speechless. I didn't know they had booked the same place. She never mentioned it before. I told her how sorry I was, but that Daniel and I had already signed the contract and paid a large non-refundable deposit. Jenna said she understood the money thing, but asked if I could please find a different location, even if it meant losing the deposit. I told her I loved her and wanted her there, but I couldn't change the venue. It's been my dream for years, and changing it would mean redoing almost everything I've already planned. Vendors, schedules, decorations, everything is tied to that place. I also don't think it's fair to Daniel, who's already compromised on a lot of other things to make the wedding more my style. Jenna started crying and said I was being selfish and that my dream shouldn't matter more than her grief. She said it felt like I was dancing on the ashes of what she lost. That line hit me hard. Since then, she's barely spoken to me. My mom has been caught in the middle. She thinks it's heartbreaking, but says Jenna can't expect the world to stop for her pain. My dad, however, thinks I should just pick somewhere else because family is more important than a fancy garden. Daniel is fully on my side and says that while it's sad, we can't base our wedding around someone else's trauma. He thinks Jenna is being unfair and manipulative, even if unintentionally. To complicate things more, my extended family now knows because Jenna posted something vague on Facebook about people prioritizing parties over family. Some cousins figured out it was about me. I've been getting messages telling me to show compassion and that a wedding venue isn't worth breaking your sister's heart. Others, mostly friends, say I'm not in the wrong and that grief doesn't entitle someone to control others' choices. I tried calling Jenna again last week to talk it out. She answered but was very cold. She said she's made peace with not coming to the wedding if I keep it at that venue. She told me she loves me, but can't stand there smiling while reliving the worst loss of her life. I told her I understood, but hoped she'd reconsider. She said she hopes I reconsider too, but she won't beg. Now I feel completely torn. Every time I picture walking down that aisle, I imagine her empty seat. I've cried over this more than once. Part of me feels like I should change it to keep the peace, but another part feels angry, like no matter what I do, I'll always be walking on eggshells around her grief. I've supported her endlessly this past year. Cooked for her, stayed overnight when she couldn't sleep, helped her pack away the nursery. I did everything I could. I feel guilty, but also exhausted. Daniel keeps reminding me that it's our day and that my sister's pain, while real, can't dictate the rest of my life. He says she'll eventually forgive me, but I can't shake the feeling that this might cause a permanent rift between us. My mom said something that stuck with me. If you change the venue, you'll resent her. If you don't, she'll resent you. And that feels painfully true. So here I am, a few months away from the wedding of my dreams, wondering if I'm the villain for not giving it up. I don't want to hurt Jenna. I really don't. But I also don't want to spend the rest of my life feeling like every decision I make has to pass through a grief filter. AITA for keeping my dream venue, even though it's tied to my sister's loss. AITA for telling my sister-in-law she can't name her baby after my late wife. So I, 36M, lost my wife, Emily, 3 years ago. She passed away suddenly from an aneurysm, and it was the most devastating time of my life. We'd been together since college, married for 8 years, and had a peaceful, happy life. Everyone in my family loved her. My sister-in-law, Amanda, 32F, especially adored Emily. They were close. Emily was kind, empathetic, and had a way of making everyone feel seen. After Emily died, Amanda was there for me a lot, which I appreciated. Fast forward to now. I've been in therapy, gotten back on my feet, and have recently started dating someone new, Mia, 30F. Things are serious, but I'm still careful about how I bring her around my family, because Emily's memory is still very present. A few months ago, Amanda announced she was pregnant with her first child. Everyone was thrilled. She and my brother, Ryan, 34M, had been trying for a long time. We were all over the moon when she shared that it was a girl. Last week, we had a small family dinner to celebrate Amanda's pregnancy. Toward the end, Amanda stood up with this huge smile and said she wanted to share the baby's name. She looked right at me and said, "We've decided to name her Emily Rose, after the most beautiful person I've ever known." I froze. The whole room went quiet. My mother teared up. My dad said, "That's lovely." And Ryan put his arm around Amanda like it was this heartfelt tribute. I didn't know what to say at first, but I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. Emily's name is sacred to me. It's tied to so much love, but also so much pain. Hearing them say they wanted to reuse it for their child made my stomach twist. It felt like taking something deeply personal and putting it on display. After dinner, I pulled Amanda aside privately and told her I wasn't comfortable with her using Emily's name. I said I appreciated the sentiment, but it felt wrong. Emily wasn't just a name. She was my wife, and it would be incredibly painful for me to hear that name constantly at family gatherings for the next 18 years. Amanda's face fell, and she said she meant it as an honor, not an insult. I said I understood that, but asked her to please consider another name. She got teary and said I was making her feel like she'd done something terrible. Ryan came over and got defensive, saying, "Dude, it's not like we're stealing your wife. We're naming our kid after someone we love too." I tried to keep calm and said, "That's exactly the point. You loved her too, but she wasn't your wife. I still grieve her. You're asking me to constantly hear her name associated with someone else." Things got heated. Amanda accused me of being possessive over Emily's memory. She said I was gatekeeping her grief and acting like she didn't have the right to mourn her own way. My parents stepped in later and told me I should be touched, that Amanda's choice was a beautiful tribute. That night, I went home and cried harder than I had in years. I hadn't realized how raw that wound still was until then. I told Mia about it, and she said she completely understood my reaction. She pointed out that it's one thing to hang a photo or keep a memento. It's another to give someone else your late wife's exact name. A few days later, Amanda texted me saying she and Ryan had talked but weren't changing the name. She said she didn't want to let my trauma dictate her child's identity. That stung. I told her that if she went through with it, I might have to step back from being around them for a while, at least until I could handle it emotionally. Now my parents are furious with me. My mom said I'm punishing Amanda for trying to keep Emily's memory alive. My dad said, "Wouldn't Emily want her name passed on with love?" Maybe she would, but Emily isn't here to say that. I feel like I'm being painted as cold and bitter. My brother hasn't talked to me since, and apparently Amanda's been crying nonstop because she feels like she ruined our relationship. I didn't mean to cause all this drama, but I can't pretend it's fine. Every time I picture her holding a baby named Emily, I feel like I'm betraying my wife. I told my mom that if they go through with it, I'll still love my niece, but I might call her by a nickname or middle name or something else. She said that was disrespectful and that I was making everything about myself. Now I'm stuck. Part of me feels guilty because I know Amanda meant well. She really did love Emily. But another part of me feels violated, like they took something intimate and turned it into a family token without thinking about what it would cost me. I've asked a few friends about it, and opinions are split. Some say I'm right. It's my late wife's name, and I have every reason to feel uncomfortable. Others say grief belongs to everyone who knew her, and I can't claim ownership over her memory. The worst part is, I know this might cause a permanent rift. I don't want to lose my relationship with my brother and his family. But I also don't think I can smile through every Emily, come here, or Emily, say hi to Uncle, without feeling like I'm drowning. It's been weeks, and the tension hasn't cooled. Amanda hasn't changed the name. My mom keeps hinting that I should find forgiveness. Ryan told me I was being selfish for making everything about the past. Maybe I am. Maybe I should be more generous. See this as a way Emily's name lives on. But in my heart, it doesn't feel like a tribute. It feels like losing her all over again. AITA for asking them not to name their baby after my late wife. AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding venue after she got engaged 2 months before my wedding. So I, 28F, have been engaged to my fiancé, Ethan, 30M, for almost 2 years. We've been planning our wedding carefully, especially since we're both paying for it ourselves. I come from a pretty big family, 2 brothers and 1 sister, Lauren, 26F. Lauren and I have always had a complicated relationship. She's outgoing, emotional, a little impulsive, and she tends to want things her way. Growing up, she was the golden child. She wasn't mean exactly, but she always had a way of making everything about her. I learned early on that if I wanted peace, I should just let her have it. When Ethan and I got engaged, we immediately fell in love with this gorgeous rustic vineyard about an hour outside our city. It's the perfect place. Big oak trees, string lights, rolling hills, the works. The venue is incredibly popular, and we booked it 18 months in advance to lock in our date. It wasn't cheap, but we both agreed it was worth it. Fast forward to about 6 months before our wedding, Lauren got engaged to her boyfriend of 1 year, Chris. I was genuinely happy for her, even though it was a bit whirlwind. I helped her brainstorm venues, vendors, and even offered to let her borrow my wedding planner's contact information. Everything seemed fine at first, until about a month later when she called me out of the blue. She sounded cheerful, almost too cheerful, and said, "So, Ethan and I were talking, and I think it would be so special if I got married at the same venue as you. It would be kind of like a family tradition thing." I told her I totally understood why she liked it. It's stunning, but that it was already booked out for over a year, so she'd have to pick a different date if she wanted to reserve it. Then she said, "Well, that's the thing. I already talked to them. Your date is the only one they have available this year. So I was wondering if you'd be willing to give it to us, since we're planning a smaller wedding and can't afford to wait until next year." I thought she was joking. I literally laughed, thinking she was pulling my leg, but she was dead serious. She said it wouldn't be a big deal because we could just find another date or venue, since our wedding was still months away. I told her no. We'd already signed contracts, paid deposits, since saved the dates, and built plans around that exact date and location. She immediately got snippy and said I was being selfish, that her timeline was more urgent because she and Chris wanted to start a family right away. She started crying, saying it wasn't fair that I was hogging the only venue she loved. I told her I was sorry, but that I wasn't changing our entire wedding for her. Well, that didn't go over well. A few days later, I got a call from my mom. She said Lauren was devastated and that I should consider giving her the date as a gesture of sisterly love. I told her that was absurd. I'd lose thousands of dollars, and Ethan and I had built our whole timeline around that day. My mom said I was prioritizing money over family and that it would mean the world to Lauren. My dad, thankfully, took my side and told me not to cave. But the drama didn't stop there. Lauren started telling our extended family that I was refusing to help her during a hard time. Apparently, she told people that Chris's mom is sick and that they wanted her to be able to attend the wedding before her health declined further. Something I hadn't even known about. When I texted to ask if that was true, Lauren said, well, yeah, but I didn't think I had to tell you everything. You'd understand if you weren't so obsessed with being the perfect bride. That was the last straw for me. I told her flat out that the answer was no, and that if she kept pushing, she wouldn't be part of my wedding party anymore. Cue even more drama. She sent this long text about how I'd changed and how marriage has made me cold. My mom kept guilt-tripping me, saying I was ruining family harmony. Even my older brother texted to say maybe I should just compromise somehow. Then, last week, Lauren announced on Facebook that she and Chris had booked a date at my venue, exactly 1 week before mine. Same location, same ceremony area, same setup, even using some of the same vendors, including my florist and DJ. I was shocked. She never asked if I was okay with that. When I confronted her, she said, well, you said no to giving me your date, but I found the next best thing. Don't be mad. It's not like I copied you. We just have similar taste. Ethan was furious. He said it's manipulative and that she's trying to make our wedding look like a knockoff of hers. Honestly, I can't even argue. It feels like she's hijacked something that was special to us. Now I'm worried guests will compare the two weddings, or worse, be confused since they're back-to-back weekends at the same place. My mom insists it's a sweet coincidence and says I'm being dramatic for feeling upset. She told me to just focus on my own day and not make it a competition. But it's hard not to feel like Lauren intentionally one-upped me. I try to be the bigger person, but I'm starting to resent her. My dad and Ethan both think we should just ignore her and focus on enjoying our wedding. Part of me agrees, but another part of me wants to tell her she's not welcome at mine anymore. It feels so unfair that she's painted me as selfish when she's the one who keeps crossing boundaries. At this point, our relationship is hanging by a thread. I hate that what should be the happiest time of my life has turned into constant family drama. My mom keeps saying I'll regret it if I hold a grudge. But honestly, I don't know how to forgive someone who keeps taking and taking until there's nothing left. So, AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding venue and still being angry that she copied nearly my entire wedding a week before mine. AITA for refusing to give my sister the wedding venue I booked, even though her fiancé is dying. So I, 28F, got engaged to my fiancé Mark, 31M, last year after dating for 4 years. We've been together since college, and we've always talked about having a small but elegant wedding. After a lot of saving and planning, we booked a beautiful vineyard about 2 hours from our hometown. It's a super popular venue, so we had to book it 18 months in advance, and it cost us a lot, basically our entire wedding budget. Here's the thing. My sister, Emily, 25F, and I have always had a complicated relationship. She's very charming and outgoing, and my parents adore her. I was always the quieter, more practical one, and growing up, I felt like Emily could do no wrong in their eyes. Whenever she got into trouble, they'd bail her out. Whenever I achieved something, it was kind of brushed aside. Emily got engaged about 6 months after I did. Her fiancé, Ryan, 27M, seemed like a nice enough guy, and I was genuinely happy for her. But their relationship moved fast. They started dating, moved in together, and got engaged all within a year. I figured that was their choice, but they didn't have much money saved and hadn't planned much of the wedding yet. A few months ago, Ryan was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of cancer. It's been devastating for everyone. He's been undergoing treatment, but things don't look good. Doctors told them he may only have a few months left. It's tragic, and my heart really does go out to both of them. Here's where things get complicated. Last month, my mom called me in tears and said Emily wanted to move her wedding date up, way up, so that Ryan could have a chance to get married before he gets too sick. But apparently, every decent venue near us was booked solid for months. Then my mom said something that floored me. She wanted me to let Emily use my venue and date. For context, our wedding is in April, about 5 months from now. We've already sent out save the dates, paid most of the vendors, and made deposits that we can't get back. I told my mom that while I understand the situation is heartbreaking, I can't just give up the venue and all the work we've done. She said, "But honey, this might be Emily's only chance to have a wedding. Yours can wait a year or two." I was speechless. I told her that Mark and I have been planning this for over a year, and moving everything would cost us thousands we don't have. My mom said she and my dad would help, but I know that means they'd help Emily, not us. I said no, firmly. The next day, Emily called me sobbing, saying she can't believe I'd be so selfish when her fiancé is dying. She said, "You'll have your whole life with Mark. I might only get a few months with Ryan. Don't I deserve one happy day?" It absolutely crushed me to hear that. I told her I understand what she's going through, but it's not fair to expect me to give up my wedding because of it. My parents blew up my phone for days, saying I could easily reschedule, that family should come first, and that a vineyard is just a place. Emily needs this more. Mark, thankfully, has been 100% on my side. He said we can't just erase our plans and budget because of guilt. But then my grandmother called me, someone I really respect, and she told me she understood both sides, but gently said she thinks I'll regret this if Ryan passes away before they can have their day. That one hit hard. For weeks, I've been torn between guilt and frustration. Emily hasn't spoken to me since. My parents are cold toward me, and family members have been taking sides. Some say they get my point. Others say I'm heartless. Last weekend, my mom dropped a bombshell. She said Emily and Ryan are planning a small ceremony in a park, but she made it clear that it won't be the same, and she hopes I can live with myself knowing I could have given them something better. Here's what no one seems to understand. It's not just about the venue. It's the fact that I've spent so much time, money, and emotional energy preparing for this wedding. Mark and I both work full-time and don't have endless funds. We've planned everything around this date, and moving it would mean losing deposits, rebooking vendors, and maybe not being able to afford the same kind of event again. It's not like I don't want Emily to have her wedding. I even offered to help pay for decorations, coordinate things, and lend her my dress if she wanted it. We're close in size. But apparently, that wasn't enough. The guilt is eating me alive, though. Every time I look at our wedding invitations, I feel like a horrible person. What kind of sister doesn't help her sibling have one last happy moment before tragedy strikes? On the other hand, I keep asking myself, where's the line between compassion and being taken advantage of? If I give in, I'd be out thousands of dollars, and Mark and I would have to start over. And honestly, part of me wonders if my parents would have asked the same thing if it were the other way around. Deep down, I know they wouldn't. A few days ago, my cousin, who's close to Emily, told me that Emily said she's not planning to invite me to her park ceremony because it hurts too much to see her there. That stung, but I didn't fight it. Now, every time I talk to my parents, they sound disappointed in me. My dad even said, "You'll regret this when she's gone." So here I am, feeling like the worst person alive for holding on to my wedding plans when my sister's fiancé might not make it to theirs. But also feeling like maybe for once in my life, I had a right to say no. Am I the asshole for refusing to give my dying sister my wedding venue? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for telling my sister she can't name her baby after my late wife. So my 33M wife, Emma, passed away 3 years ago from a sudden brain aneurysm. She was 29. We'd been together for almost 10 years, married for 4, and she was genuinely the kindest, funniest, most compassionate person I've ever known. Losing her absolutely broke me. It took over a year before I could go a week without crying, and I still wear my wedding ring. I've slowly been putting my life back together. I go to therapy, I reconnected with friends, and I even started dating again about 6 months ago. My girlfriend, Chloe, 31F, knows everything about Emma and has been very understanding. She doesn't try to replace her or act weird about it, and that means a lot. Now, the issue is with my sister, Lisa, 28F. She and Emma were close, especially toward the end. When Emma was hospitalized, Lisa visited almost every day. She gave a speech at the funeral, helped me with errands, and was honestly a huge emotional support when everything fell apart. So, when Lisa got pregnant earlier this year, I was really happy for her. A few weeks ago, she had her 20-week scan and found out she's having a girl. The whole family was thrilled. But then, at a small family dinner, she announced the baby's name, Emma Rose. The moment she said it, everyone went quiet. My mom started tearing up. My dad said it was a beautiful tribute, but I froze. I could feel my stomach drop. It felt like I'd been sucker punched. I didn't say anything at the dinner because I didn't want to make a scene, but afterward, I pulled Lisa aside. I told her I appreciated the thought, but I wasn't comfortable with her naming her daughter after my late wife. She looked shocked and said she thought I'd be touched. I tried to explain that it just felt wrong, like she was taking something deeply personal and making it hers. I said it would be painful for me to hear that name constantly in a new context attached to someone else. Lisa said, "But you don't own the name." I agreed, of course, but told her it wasn't about ownership. It was about the emotional weight. Emma's name isn't just a name to me. It's her. Hearing it again in daily life would reopen wounds I've worked so hard to close. She started crying and said she'd already told her husband and his family the name. She said she wanted to honor Emma because she was part of our family too. I told her I understood, but asked her to please reconsider or at least choose Rose Emma or something else. She said she'd think about it, but she was clearly upset. 2 days later, my mom called me and said I'd hurt Lisa deeply. Apparently, she'd been planning to name the baby after Emma since before she even got pregnant, and now she feels like I'm making her grief less valid. My mom said it was a lovely gesture and that I should see it as a sign of love. But I can't. When I think about my future niece, I don't want to flinch every time someone says her name. I don't want my girlfriend to feel weird about it either, because that's bound to happen. Chloe already told me privately that it would make her uncomfortable too, not because she's jealous, but because she knows how much emotional weight that name carries for me. I tried to explain all this to Lisa again, but she doubled down. She said that since Emma was a big part of our family's story, her name should live on. She even said that maybe it would help me heal to have a new little Emma in my life. I told her that's not how grief works. I said it would feel like she was replacing the real Emma with a reminder I didn't ask for. She got mad and accused me of gatekeeping grief. She said I'm not the only one who loved Emma and that I can't dictate how others honor her. She's now refusing to talk to me, and my parents are divided. My dad privately told me he understands where I'm coming from, but my mom keeps saying I'm making everything about myself. Even my younger brother texted me, saying he gets that it's awkward, but it's just a name. Maybe it is to them, but not to me. Every time I imagine holding that baby and hearing someone say, "Emma, come Annie Lisa," I just feel sick. It doesn't feel sweet or touching. It feels like my wife's memory is being used for something I didn't consent to. A few days ago, Lisa texted me saying she and her husband have decided to keep the name Emma Rose. She said she's sorry I feel hurt, but that she won't change it. She also added that she hopes I'll come around before the baby's born. I haven't responded. I don't even know if I'll be able to attend the baby shower now. The thought of sitting there, smiling and pretending it's fine when everyone gushes about baby Emma makes me want to leave the room. Chloe told me I have every right to set emotional boundaries, but that I should try to do it gently because Lisa clearly meant well. I know she didn't do it maliciously, but that doesn't make it hurt less. Part of me wonders if I'm overreacting. I know people name their kids after loved ones all the time, and I know Emma's memory deserves to live on. But this doesn't feel like honoring her. It feels like erasing what made her special to me. It's as if my wife is being repurposed into someone else's story, and I'm supposed to be okay with it. Last night, I talked to my therapist about it. She said my reaction isn't wrong, that grief is deeply personal, and that I'm allowed to feel protective over my wife's memory. But she also said I should decide what I want my future relationship with Lisa and her child to look like. If I cut her off over this, that's something I might regret down the line. I keep going back and forth. On one hand, it feels selfish to tell someone what they can name their kid. On the other hand, it feels cruel to expect me to smile through my own heartbreak for the sake of keeping peace. I genuinely don't want to be the bad guy. I love my sister, and I'm happy for her, but I can't shake the feeling that she's taken something sacred and turned it into something I'll never be able to look at the same way. So, Reddit, AITA for telling my sister she can't name her baby after my late wife. AITA for refusing to take care of my sick mother after she kicked me out 12 years ago. 29F, haven't spoken to my mother, 56F, in over a decade. To understand why, you have to know a little about how things were when I was growing up. My mom was strict, religious to a fault, obsessed with appearances, and convinced that obedience was the ultimate virtue. My dad was quiet, mostly kept to himself, and rarely challenged her on anything. When I was 17, I came out as bisexual. I told her because I thought honesty was important and because I was dating a girl at the time who I genuinely cared about. I didn't expect her to be thrilled, but I also didn't expect her to scream that I was possessed by evil and tell me to pack my things. She gave me one night to leave. My dad didn't say a word while she stood at the door holding a Bible and telling me I wasn't welcome in her Christian home. I ended up couch surfing at friends' houses until I could afford to rent a room. My aunt, Mom's younger sister, helped me a lot. She bought me groceries, helped me apply to community college, and basically filled the role of a parent. My mom and dad never called or texted. I graduated college, got a job as a paralegal, and built a quiet, stable life. I met my fiancée, 32M, 4 years ago, and we're planning to get married next summer. Last month, out of nowhere, my dad reached out through Facebook Messenger. His message said, "Your mother is sick. Please call." I ignored it at first because I assumed it was some guilt trip. Then my aunt called and told me my mom had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. It's terminal. Apparently, my dad is overwhelmed. He's been caring for her for 6 months, and now he's asking me to come home just for a while to help. He says he can't keep working and caring for her at the same time. My aunt, who still talks to both of them, said my mom specifically asked for me. That hit me weirdly hard. I told my fiancé everything. He said he'd support whatever decision I made, but gently suggested I think hard about whether I'd regret not going. I've been losing sleep ever since. When I finally called my dad, he sounded exhausted. He said, "Your mother wants to make amends. She talks about you every day." I asked if she ever apologized for kicking me out. He said she regrets how things happened, but didn't use the word sorry. That felt telling. Still, I drove up there last weekend. The house looked the same. Same garden gnomes, same porch swing, same cross over the doorway. My mom was in a hospital bed in the living room, thin and pale. When she saw me, she started crying. I cried too. For a few minutes, it was just quiet. Then she said, "I've prayed for you to come back." I told her I wasn't sure why I was there. She said she wanted forgiveness and that she didn't mean to hurt me that badly. She also said, "I just wanted you to live right." That phrase hit like a slap. It wasn't an apology. It was justification wrapped in guilt. We talked for maybe an hour. She asked about my fiancé, and when I mentioned he's not religious, she frowned and said, maybe marriage will bring him closer to God. I realized she hadn't really changed. She was dying, yes, but she was still the same woman who threw me out like garbage. After that visit, my dad texted asking if I could stay for a few weeks to help around the house. I told him no. I have a full-time job, a life, and more importantly, a lot of unresolved pain. I said I wasn't emotionally equipped to play nurse to someone who never once called to see if I was alive. He said I was being cruel and ungrateful. He told me that forgiveness is a Christian duty. I snapped and told him forgiveness is earned, not demanded, and that he and Mom made their bed. He hung up on me. Since then, my aunt and even a few cousins have been messaging me, saying I'm heartless for refusing a dying woman's last wish. My aunt said Mom might only have weeks left. She keeps sending me photos of Mom looking frail, saying things like, "You'll regret this someday." But here's the thing, I did go. I faced her. I listened. She still couldn't take responsibility for what she did. She wanted peace for herself, not closure for me. And I can't pretend that her illness suddenly erases everything. My fiancé says I don't owe them anything. He's seen me crying, unable to focus, wondering if I'm the villain for not being the bigger person. He told me love shouldn't be conditional, even with family, and that sometimes protecting your peace means walking away. Still, Every time my phone buzzes, I half expect it to be a message saying she's gone, and I feel this knot of guilt. It's not that I want her to suffer. I don't. I just can't step back into that house and pretend we're a normal family. My dad has started posting vague statuses on Facebook about forgiveness and wayward children, which feels like a passive-aggressive guilt campaign. A few old church members have sent me messages saying, "Your mother always loved you, and she deserves grace." No one seems to remember that I was 17, scared, and thrown out into the world with nothing. Now my aunt says Mom's health is declining fast, and it would mean everything if I came to visit again before it's too late. I told her I'll think about it, but I don't think I can. The first visit reopened wounds I've spent years trying to heal. I wake up at night with this mix of anger and sadness that makes me feel like I'm 16 again, standing on that porch with a trash bag full of clothes. My therapist says it's okay to protect my boundaries, that forgiveness doesn't require proximity, and compassion doesn't require martyrdom. Intellectually, I know that's true. Emotionally, though, I feel like the world will label me as unfeeling if I don't go back. I keep replaying her words, "I didn't mean to hurt you that badly." Not "I'm sorry." Not "I was wrong." Just a vague, half-hearted attempt to ease her own conscience. It's like she wants me to absolve her so she can die peacefully, while I'm left holding all the pain she never acknowledged. Part of me wonders if refusing to go makes me just like her, stubborn, unyielding. But another part of me, the one that remembers sleeping on a friend's floor with nowhere to go, thinks I've already done enough by showing up once. So here I am, stuck between guilt and self-preservation, wondering if choosing myself again makes me the villain in everyone else's story. AITA for refusing to take care of my sick mother after she kicked me out 12 years ago. AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's miracle baby after she publicly humiliated my husband. So I, 29F, have a sister, Emily, 33F, who had a really difficult time getting pregnant. She and her husband, Mike, tried for years, went through multiple rounds of IVF, miscarriages, and emotional heartbreak. When she finally had her daughter, Lily, it was this huge celebration in our family. My parents called her their miracle baby, and honestly, it was beautiful at first. The problem started when Emily began treating everyone around her like unpaid staff. Every family gathering turned into, "Who's watching Lily so Mommy can have a break?" And if anyone said no, she'd guilt-trip them about how we should appreciate the blessing and do anything for Lily because she's a miracle. I was child-free by choice long before Emily had Lily, and I've always been clear about that. I love my niece, I buy her gifts, I attend birthdays, and I'm a responsible aunt. But I don't babysit. I work full-time as a nurse, and my husband, Jordan, 31M, is an EMT. We both work long shifts and value our downtime. A few weeks ago, my parents decided to host a family dinner for my dad's birthday. Everyone was there, cousins, aunts, even our grandmother. Emily showed up late, exhausted, with Lily in tow, and immediately started asking who could watch her for a bit so she could actually eat for once. I had just come off a 12-hour shift, and Jordan had driven us straight from his. I told her gently that we were too tired to watch Lily. Emily looked at me and said, loud enough for the whole table to hear, "Of course you're too tired to help, since you don't actually know what real responsibility feels like." The table went silent. My husband squeezed my hand under the table, but I could see he was furious. Emily kept going, saying that people without kids don't understand what hard work really is, and that we play pretend at being adults. She laughed, and my mom awkwardly tried to change the subject. After dinner, Jordan and I quietly left. We didn't make a scene, but we agreed we'd had enough. I texted Emily the next day, saying her comments were hurtful and that she owed both of us an apology. She replied, "It was just a joke, don't be so sensitive," and followed it with, "You'll understand when you finally grow up and have kids." That was the last straw. I decided I wasn't going to keep bending over backward for someone who disrespected us. So when she called last weekend asking if I could babysit Lily for 2 days while she and Mike attended a wedding out of town, I said no. I told her I didn't feel comfortable watching Lily after how she treated us. Emily went ballistic. She said I was punishing her child for something minor, that I was being cruel and selfish. My mom called me later saying I should be the bigger person and help family, and that Emily didn't mean what she said. I told her if Emily didn't mean it, she should apologize. My mom sighed and said, "You know how emotional she gets. You can't take everything she says seriously." So I stuck to my no. Emily ended up asking one of her friends, but apparently the friend canceled last minute. So she had to stay home and miss the wedding. Now she's been posting cryptic stuff on Facebook like, "Some people don't deserve family, and when you're blessed with a child, you really see who's jealous of your happiness." A few relatives have texted me saying I should have just helped her for the sake of Lily. One cousin even said, "You don't have to like your sister to help her out once in a while." The thing is, I have helped Emily plenty in the past. I've driven her to appointments, helped her when Lily was sick, and even lent her money once when they had daycare issues. But every time, she acts like I owe her. And every time I set a boundary, she throws the miracle baby card like it's a golden ticket to excuse any behavior. My husband supports me completely. He said he refuses to spend our limited free time doing favors for someone who publicly belittled us. But my parents keep pressuring me to make peace and remember family comes first. Last night, Emily called me crying. She said she felt abandoned, that everyone was turning against her, and that I was making her life harder when she already struggles as a mom. I told her I'm not responsible for her choices or her words. She got quiet and said, "You'll regret this when you finally have kids and realize how lonely motherhood can be." Then she hung up. I didn't respond. But now I feel a weird mix of guilt and anger. I don't want to hold a grudge, but I also don't want to be treated like the family doormat. My parents still think I should just let it go, and I know if I cave now, Emily will just keep pushing boundaries. Here's the kicker. Today I found out from my cousin that Emily told people I hate children, and that's why I refuse to babysit. That made me furious because it's not true. I adore my niece. I just don't want to be guilted into childcare or demeaned in front of my family. Now, the family group chat is full of passive-aggressive messages about helping others without keeping score and how family is supposed to stick together. I haven't replied, and my phone has been blowing up with messages from relatives asking what really happened. Jordan says we should step back from my family for a while, and I agree, but part of me wonders if I'm overreacting. I don't want Lily to lose her relationship with me because of her mom's behavior. But I also feel like Emily needs to learn that her words have consequences. So, am I the asshole for refusing to babysit my sister's miracle baby after she humiliated my husband and me in front of our whole family? AITA for refusing to take in my brother's kids after his wife passed away, even though I technically have the space and money to help? I, 36F, am the oldest of 3 siblings. My brother Liam, 33M, and I were close growing up, but that relationship started to fade in our mid-20s. He always had a bit of a wild streak. Parties, risky financial decisions, constantly quitting jobs because he wasn't fulfilled. I was the opposite, cautious, career-oriented, and a bit of a planner. About 8 years ago, Liam met his wife, Cara. They married fast, had 2 kids, now 6 and 4, and moved about an hour away. Cara was lovely, organized, kind, and the glue that held Liam together. When she died unexpectedly in a car accident in May, it shattered everyone. Liam spiraled hard. He called me constantly those first few weeks, crying, unable to handle basic tasks. I tried to be there. I helped plan the funeral, managed some of the finances, and even took the kids, Evan and Nora, for weekends so he could grieve. But it quickly became clear that grief wasn't the only issue. Liam started drinking heavily, like day drinking, missing work, leaving the kids with random neighbors so he could get some air. One weekend, when the kids were with me, his neighbor texted me that she'd found Evan outside alone at 9 p.m. because Liam had gone out for groceries and never came back. That was my breaking point. I called CPS. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. They did an investigation, and ultimately, the kids were temporarily placed with me while Liam entered a rehab program. I didn't tell him I was the one who reported him, but he figured it out. He called me screaming that I'd destroyed his family and that he'd never forgive me. For the next few months, I had the kids full-time. It was exhausting, but I actually started to love it. I don't have kids myself, My husband, Matt, 38M, and I decided early on to be child-free. But I adored Evan and Nora. We adjusted our schedules, turned our guest room into a makeshift kids' room, and tried to give them stability. Liam eventually completed rehab, and CPS determined he could have the kids back with conditions: ongoing therapy, random drug tests, and regular check-ins. I was hesitant, but I had to respect the process. For about a year, things seemed okay. He stayed sober, got a new job, and appeared more responsible. I even started to believe he might manage. But this summer, things started to unravel again. Missed calls, canceled visits, and then I got a call from Evan's school. They hadn't been picked up for hours. When I got there, both kids were waiting in the office, hungry and confused. I drove them home, and Liam wasn't there. The place was a mess. Empty bottles, overflowing trash, the smell of smoke. I took the kids back with me again. Later that night, he texted saying he'd had a rough week and needed space. That was 2 months ago. Now CPS is back in the picture. They said because I'm the children's biological aunt and have already cared for them, I'm the most logical choice for permanent placement. They made it clear that if I declined, the kids would go into foster care, likely separated. Here's where things get messy. Matt doesn't want to do it. He was patient through everything last time, but he's made it clear that he doesn't want to raise kids full-time. He says he loves Evan and Nora, but doesn't want our lives to become a redo of Liam's mistakes. We both work full-time, me in HR, him in IT, and the idea of suddenly becoming parents of traumatized kids isn't something either of us planned for. But the guilt is eating me alive. These are my niece and nephew. They've already lost their mom, and their dad is, I don't even know anymore. When I think of them going into foster care, possibly never seeing each other again, I feel sick. Still, when I told CPS I needed time to decide, they said they'd understand if I declined. Liam, though, he exploded. He showed up at my house, unannounced, yelling on my porch that I was heartless, that I wanted his kids but not him, and that Kara would hate me for turning my back on family. Matt heard all of it. After Liam left, he said, "If you take them in, I'm out." He didn't mean it as a threat, but a statement of truth. We had a long talk. He said he'd resent me forever if I forced him into a life he didn't want, and that if I really wanted to raise them, he'd understand, but it would have to be without him. So now I'm in this impossible spot. If I say yes to CPS, I lose my marriage, my partner of 12 years, and the future we planned. If I say no, I lose the last bit of family I have left. Every time I picture Evan's shy smile or Nora asking if I can braid her hair, I want to scream. Part of me thinks Liam is right, that I'm selfish. I can afford to help, I have the space, I already know how to care for them. But another part of me knows that resentment and exhaustion could destroy me. I've seen what happens when people taking kids out of guilt instead of genuine readiness. The rest of my family, mostly distant cousins, are split. Some think I should step up because blood is blood. Others tell me that Liam made his choices, and I shouldn't throw away my own life to fix his. CPS gave me a deadline. Next week. Every night, I lie awake thinking about what kind of person I'll be either way. If I take them, I might resent them, something I could never forgive myself for. If I don't, I'll always wonder what happened to them. I told Liam I hadn't decided yet, and he said, "You already decided. You just don't want to admit it." Maybe he's right. Maybe deep down, I already know what I'll do. But I hate that it makes me feel like a monster either way. So, AITA for refusing to take in my brother's kids, even though I could, but don't truly want to. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she excluded my fiancé from the guest list. So, I, 28F, have been with my fiancé, Tom, 30M, for about 4 years. We live together, are financially stable, and have a pretty solid relationship. I have a sister, Lisa, 32F, who has always been a little difficult, especially when it comes to family dynamics. Growing up, she was the golden child in our parents' eyes, and I was always the rebellious one. I never minded too much because I knew I was doing my own thing, but it definitely left its mark on our adult relationship. About 6 months ago, Lisa got engaged to her boyfriend of 2 years, Mark. I was genuinely happy for her and helped her with a lot of planning stuff, even giving her advice on vendors and venues. She told me early on that the wedding would be small, about 60 people, and she wanted it super intimate. I thought nothing of it and assumed that since Tom is basically family, he would be included. A couple of weeks ago, Lisa sent me the official guest list for approval. To my shock, Tom was not on it. I asked her about it, and she told me that the wedding was for family and a few close friends only, and that including him would push her over the limit. I reminded her that he's my fiancé, that we live together, and that I couldn't really imagine attending without him, especially since our families are intertwined and have been for years. Lisa then dropped a bombshell. She said she didn't want Tom there because he intimidates Mark, and I don't want any awkward dynamics. I was stunned. First, Mark has never met Tom in any meaningful way, so how could he be intimidated? Second, I've never once acted like a threat or tried to overshadow anyone. Third, it felt incredibly unfair and insulting that she would basically ask me to attend her wedding alone while leaving my partner out. I tried reasoning with her. I said maybe Tom could come for the ceremony and not the reception, or we could meet with Mark first, so there was no tension. She flat out refused and started accusing me of being dramatic and making a mountain out of a molehill. She even said that if I wanted to bring him, I should consider staying home. At this point, I was angry, but still wanted to salvage a relationship. I told her that I needed to talk to Tom before making any decisions, which I thought was fair. Tom was also upset, obviously. He said he couldn't just be left out like that, and that it felt humiliating to even be considered optional for a family wedding. We spent the next few days discussing it, and I reached out to my parents. My mom seemed torn, saying she didn't want to cause a scene, but she personally thought it was unfair. My dad was more blunt, basically telling me that I needed to stand up for myself and my relationship. After several tense conversations, I finally made a decision. I told Lisa that I could not attend the wedding if Tom wasn't welcome. I explained that attending without him would feel disrespectful to both of us, and that I couldn't in good conscience participate in a celebration that excluded my partner. She blew up. She called me selfish, dramatic, and accused me of ruining her wedding over a minor guest issue. Things escalated quickly. Mark's parents even got involved after Lisa vented to them, saying I was being unreasonable. Now, my extended family is divided. Some say I should compromise and just go alone, but many have expressed that Lisa is being controlling and unfair. I personally feel hurt because I've done everything in my power to support her, and this is how she repays me. We haven't spoken much since. Lisa keeps sending me passive-aggressive messages about missing me at her special day, and I just ignore them. Tom is supportive and insists I made the right choice, but I can't shake the guilt and the sense that I might be overreacting. On the one hand, it's my sister's wedding, and I want to celebrate with her. On the other, I feel like attending without my fiancé would send a message that it's okay for my sister to treat him as less than family. I've tried to stay calm and rational, but I also feel incredibly hurt and isolated. Some friends say I'm justified. Some say I'm being too rigid. I really need perspective here. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because my fiancé isn't invited? AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her boyfriend to my wedding after he insulted my family at a previous event? I, 32F, am getting married in about 6 months, and things have been mostly smooth, except for one looming issue involving my younger sister, Emily, 28F, and her boyfriend, Jason, 30M. Emily and I have always been close, but Jason has been a point of tension for our family since he started dating her about a year ago. My family is generally laid back and loving, but Jason has repeatedly made comments that have rubbed everyone the wrong way. The biggest incident happened at my parents' holiday party last year. Jason showed up for the first time officially as Emily's boyfriend, and within 10 minutes of arriving, he started criticizing my parents' home, the food, and even my mother's outfit. It was rude, condescending, and completely unnecessary. I tried to defuse it, and Emily was embarrassed, but she didn't do much to stop him either. After that, there were several other incidents at family dinners and outings where Jason made passive-aggressive remarks, often under the guise of just joking. My parents, my siblings, and even extended family noticed, but I hoped it would just be a phase or that Emily could handle it. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, I sent out our wedding invitations. The reception is in a large hall with plenty of space, so we invited my extended family, friends, and coworkers. Emily was thrilled, of course, and when she got the invitation, she immediately asked if Jason could attend. I froze. I told her that I needed to think about it, and over the next week, I tried to figure out how to address it without causing a huge family drama. After a lot of thought, I decided that I couldn't in good conscience allow Jason to attend the wedding. My reasoning is this. My wedding is one of the most important days of my life, and I want the people there to be supportive, kind, and respectful to my family. Jason has consistently shown that he cannot do that, and I don't want the wedding to become a scene where he insults people or ruins the atmosphere. When I told Emily my decision, she was shocked and hurt. She argued that I was being unfair, that Jason had changed, and that I was punishing her for something she couldn't control. She also pointed out that excluding him would make her feel like she had to choose between me and him. I tried to explain that my concern wasn't about her, but about protecting my family and the sanctity of the event. She accused me of being controlling and called our relationship strained because of it. My parents are divided. My mom said she understood my reasoning and appreciated that I wanted the day to be smooth, while my dad thinks I'm overreacting and that I should let Emily bring her boyfriend to avoid drama. Some of my friends have expressed that I'm being overly strict, and others think I'm entirely justified. Emily has started to get passive-aggressive in conversations, dropping hints about how important it is for couples to be together, and suggesting that she might skip the wedding if Jason isn't invited. I feel like that's manipulative and puts me in a position where I have to compromise my principles just to avoid her hurt feelings. At the same time, I can't help but feel guilty. Emily is my sister, and I don't want our relationship to collapse over this. But I also don't want to jeopardize the wedding for something I've already witnessed being a problem multiple times. I've thought about possible compromises, like having Jason attend only the ceremony or limiting his interaction with certain family members. But it doesn't feel right to include him in any part of the day after everything that's happened. I want the wedding to be full of joy and positive energy, and I genuinely believe that Jason's presence will make that impossible. I guess what I'm struggling with is whether I'm being too rigid and selfish, or if I'm justified in putting boundaries for the sake of my own day. Emily has called me unreasonable. My dad thinks I'm being dramatic, and my friends are split. I'm trying to balance being a loving sister with being a bride who wants her wedding to go smoothly, but it's incredibly stressful. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her boyfriend to my wedding, even though it's causing tension between us. The story currently stands like this. Emily is insisting she might not come if Jason isn't invited. My parents are split. Some friends think I'm being too harsh. Others support me. I feel like including Jason would be a recipe for disaster, but I'm second-guessing myself because of the family pressure and fear of losing my sister over this. What would you do if you were in my shoes? AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her fiancé to my wedding after he insulted my family at my engagement party? So here's the story. I, 28F, am getting married in 6 months, and I've been planning my wedding for over a year now. I've always been very close to my family, especially my younger sister, Emma, 25F. We're more like best friends and siblings, and she's been a huge part of my life from childhood up to now. I also have a very tight-knit extended family. We all make an effort to be involved in each other's lives and value respect and kindness above everything. A little over 2 months ago, I had my engagement party. We invited close family and friends, and the event was going really well. Drinks, laughter, music, the works. Emma arrived with her fiancé, Jason, 27M. Up until this point, I had only met Jason a couple of times, and I thought he was okay, if a bit awkward. My sister and I had never had any issues, so I didn't think much about it. But then something happened that completely blindsided me. At one point during the party, my cousin Laura was telling a story about a difficult time in her life, and Jason interrupted with a joke that was super dismissive. I don't remember the exact words because I was in shock, but he basically mocked her experience in front of everyone. My cousin was clearly upset, and I tried to steer the conversation elsewhere. Later, I overheard him talking to a friend and making snide remarks about how my whole family is overdramatic and how I can't believe they still live like this in the suburbs. I was mortified. I had never heard him talk like this about anyone, let alone my family, who I consider the core of my life. After the party, I pulled Emma aside and told her how uncomfortable and hurtful Jason's comments were. I explained that my family is incredibly important to me, and that kind of disrespect was unacceptable. Emma got defensive, saying, "He was just joking. You're taking it too seriously." I tried to reason with her, but she insisted I was overreacting. We argued briefly, but I let it go at the time because I didn't want to ruin the engagement party. I assumed that she would speak to him privately and that this wouldn't become a bigger issue. Fast forward to last week. I was finalizing the guest list for my wedding and went through the RSVP list. Emma casually mentioned that she and Jason were expecting to bring a +1. I reminded her that the wedding is mostly family and close friends, and that +1s were limited. She said, "Oh, so you're saying Jason can't come?" I froze. I told her that, given what happened at the engagement party, I don't feel comfortable having Jason at the wedding. I explained that he had insulted my family in front of everyone, and that I can't ignore that kind of behavior at such an important event. Emma completely lost it. She started yelling, saying that I was being controlling and that I was punishing her for something that she felt was just a misunderstanding. She said that I was prioritizing my family's feelings over hers, and that this was not fair since she's my sister, and this is her fiancé. I tried to explain that I wasn't punishing her. I was protecting my wedding space and my family, but she refused to listen. She even accused me of trying to push her out and threatened to skip the wedding entirely. She told me I was being selfish and that this was the ultimate betrayal of our sisterly bond. Our parents got involved after she called them crying. They were frustrated with me, saying I should just let it go and be the bigger person for your sister. They kept asking me why I couldn't just invite him and keep the peace. I tried to reason with them as well, but they kept framing it as me being stubborn or overdramatic. My friends are divided. Some think I'm totally justified, and others think I'm overreacting and that I should just swallow my pride to avoid family drama. I've been stuck in this cycle for a few days now. Emma keeps texting and calling me, insisting that if Jason isn't invited, she won't come. Part of me feels guilty because I love my sister, but another part of me feels like I have a right to protect my wedding environment from someone who has already shown blatant disrespect. I'm not asking her to leave him at home forever. This is just my wedding, a one-time event that's very personal to me and my partner. So here I am, debating if I'm the *** hole for refusing to allow my sister's fiancé to attend my wedding after what he did. I feel like anyone would protect their family in this situation, but everyone keeps telling me I'm making mountains out of molehills. AITA? Character count. 6,125 if you want. I can create a slightly longer version that hits closer to 7,000 characters with extra drama, side characters, and tension to make it feel like a top viral Reddit post. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of a last-minute +1 rule change. I, 32F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emma, 28F. Growing up, we were inseparable, and even as adults, we kept in touch constantly. I've always made an effort to support her, whether it was attending her college graduation, her engagement parties, or helping her move apartments. So when she got engaged to her fiancé, Mark, 30M, I was genuinely excited for her and immediately started helping with wedding planning in any way I could. The first major red flag came when Emma sent out the initial guest list and invitations. I had been told months earlier that it would be a small, intimate wedding with only family and very close friends. I was thrilled. Intimate weddings are more meaningful to me, and I assumed she felt the same way. My fiancé, Alex, 34M, and I received our invitations, and it was clearly for the two of us. So I planned accordingly. I didn't request time off work beyond the weekend of the wedding. I didn't make any elaborate travel plans, and I even chose to skip a friend's birthday party that weekend to be fully present for Emma. About 3 weeks ago, Emma texted me saying that she and Mark had decided they wanted everyone to be able to bring a +1. She said it was because some friends and family were traveling far, and they didn't want anyone to feel lonely. At first, I thought it was fine, so I asked Alex if he wanted to go. He was excited, so we adjusted our plans to include him as a guest. Then Emma sent another message saying she was reconsidering the guest list because some family members were upset that they weren't allowed to bring partners, and now she was offering everyone the chance to bring a plus one. This is when things started to get weird. She specifically mentioned that I could invite a plus one if I wanted, but she added in the message that she wasn't sure it would work logistically if I tried to bring my ex-boyfriend, Chris, who I had dated for 3 years before Alex, and had broken up on fairly bad terms. I was taken aback. I hadn't even considered inviting Chris. I was happily with Alex. But the message felt strange, almost accusatory, as if she thought I would try to stir drama. I brushed it off and replied that I wouldn't be bringing anyone besides Alex. Fast forward to last weekend. Emma called me and started crying on the phone. She said she was feeling overwhelmed because her mother and a few cousins were now threatening not to attend unless everyone could bring a plus one. Emma then started saying that if I didn't bring Chris or another guest, it would look bad and make her family upset. I told her again that I wasn't interested in inviting anyone else, and that we had already planned to attend as a couple. She started shouting at me, calling me selfish, and saying that I didn't care about her feelings or the wedding. Things escalated from there. Emma has always been dramatic, but this felt different. She accused me of being controlling and suggested that Alex and I were ruining her big day because we weren't willing to bend to her whims about this plus one nonsense. I tried to reason with her, pointing out that constantly changing rules and adding extra guests would put a huge strain on the wedding budget, seating, and venue restrictions, but she refused to listen. Yesterday, I finally decided I couldn't handle the stress or the guilt tripping. I texted her a long message explaining that I loved her and wanted to be there, but I couldn't comply with a constantly changing guest list that made me feel manipulated. I also said that if she wanted to have a civil wedding without pushing everyone into awkward situations, I would attend happily with Alex. Her response was devastating. She sent me a 20-paragraph rant saying I was being immature, selfish, and unreliable, and that by refusing to invite someone she felt I should, I was effectively punishing her and ruining her wedding. She concluded by saying that if I didn't show up the way she wanted, I wasn't welcome at the wedding at all. Now I feel trapped. I really want to be there for my sister, but I also feel like attending under her terms would mean sacrificing my boundaries and letting her manipulate me. Alex supports me completely, saying I shouldn't let anyone pressure me into inviting someone I don't want to, especially an ex. But part of me feels guilty for potentially missing a huge milestone in my sister's life. Our parents are split on the issue. Mom says I should just go with it for Emma's sake, while Dad says Emma is being unreasonable and that I have every right to decline. Friends are divided too, and I haven't told any extended family because I don't want to create more drama. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of a last-minute plus one rule change and her insistence that I invite someone I don't want to. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.